Okay, it looks like the stream is streaming, which is good. Hello everyone, this is Arafellin playing the 7 Cities of Gold for the Atari 8-bit systems. I currently have the emulator set to XL, XE emulation, which should hopefully make the generation go a little faster. Unfortunately, I lost the previous save, so I'll need to start a new world. Anyway, to get started, you press start on your Atari keys. Then you need to insert your map disk, press start. No. I didn't do that right. Oh, reset. Anyway, as I was saying, actually read the instructions here. Press Option to create another world. That's F4 on this emulator with the current settings. So you need to insert a blank disk. It will be the map disk. So what I do from here is disk drives, drive selection. There's a new image button at the bottom. And create the default disk size, single density. And I guess that's not an option. First, I think I need to detach this. Then single density, attach to drive 1. I'm going to call it 7 Cities. Okay, so I've created a new emulated diskette, attached it to drive 1. That should be all set up, so press start. And there it goes, it's starting to run. It's going to take, according to the game anyway, approximately 10 minutes. I found in practice it can take 15, 20 even. It depends. We do at least have a nice progress dialogue thing going here. Yeah, and this is one reason I switched to XL, XE instead of, I forget what it was on 400 or 800 or maybe their equivalent. Either way, with those, it took a while before it even got to this part where it said what it's doing. It just looked like it was kind of sitting there for quite some time. Anyway, while we're waiting for this, I'll talk through more or less what happened. So my desktop computer, which is where I'm doing all my streaming and recording and everything else from, has 2 disk drives in it. There is the system drive, which is a solid-state drive, came with the computer. That's where you have your operating system, personal settings, all the most of the general utility software, settings and stuff for that, browser history, bookmarks, etc., etc. That disk is fine. The other disk, I got a traditional standard hard drive, couple of terabytes for more storage. Right about the time I got the computer itself, that has caused me trouble pretty much from day one. The original problems I were having turned out to be a bad data cable, where sometimes the disk would just be very slow to respond or I'd get random crashes or whatever. That I replaced the data cable pretty early on. Everything was fine for a while. Probably about 2 years. Then earlier this year, I started having a problem where when I would reboot the computer, the second disk, which was where all my data and games and stuff is on, would just not appear. Windows would not see it, there would just not be there, the shortcuts and whatever would not be there. But I found that if I shut the computer down completely, waited, a minute or two, maybe not even that long, started up cold, everything will be fine. So at that point, I probably should have gotten a new disk, backed up my stuff, all that. Didn't get around to it. So last week, Friday, I was just doing my usual stuff and the computer hung while I was in the middle of something. Okay, the new world is created, so what we do now is switch back to the game disk, reset to load the game itself. Press the button to start to play the game. Okay, now you switch to your map disk. So that was this. Press start to begin a new quest. I'll start with novice again. I think I might try a journeyman later on after I do some decent exploration in a novice one. But for now, we have our standard start of 4 ships, 100 men, 52 weeks of food, and 300 trade goods. As the pub is where you save, your home is where you see your progress. Of course, right now there is no progress to see. And there's a little delay here. Okay. Outfitter, I might actually trade in some of my men for more goods, because trade goods are pretty useful. And note that having a smaller expedition gives you more weeks of food, because the same amount of food will feed a smaller group for longer, because the food on your side of the thing, food is displayed when you're carrying it around in units of how many weeks it can feed you, and not an absolute amount of food. So 50 weeks of food with 100 men is the same amount of food as 100 weeks of food with 50 men. Anyway, let's get on our ship and sail west. So as I was saying about my computer, I was just playing around, minding my own business, when suddenly it froze up. The sound did that thing where it kind of... the display went blank after a bit. At first I was thinking, maybe the graphics driver has crashed. That's happened before, not very often, maybe 2-3 times a year at most. But it has happened before, and at first I assumed that what was going on, but when that happens, it recovers after a few seconds and everything is fine. It did not recover. It just sat there. The sound had stopped completely. The display was completely gone, but the computer itself was still running. The fans were going. It was making, and yeah, just completely unresponsive. So I shut it down manually, tried to start back up. It took a few tries. When I finally got it back into Windows, again, that drive was just not there. I couldn't see it. There was no sign of it in the device manager. The shortcuts that linked to it were having no icons because it couldn't read them. Did some playing around with things. Oop, here's some land. Okay, this is good. First, the last random world I played, we had a issue where I just kept sailing west and didn't run into anything for a while, which can happen. Sometimes there's just nothing there at that latitude. So we've a decent-sized exposition. But I only carry a bit of food because they're going to be trading for more in town. That looks good. There's a village right here. Okay, something is going wrong. Maybe I should not be running on the XLEXE. Okay, just a minute. Okay, can I pause the stream? Okay, I'm having some issues at the moment. Okay, sorry about that.